Related to this, I want to talk about the story of the supposed land bridge between the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel. This story, wallahi, it's a case study in propaganda. You know, everyone is familiar with the version that spread far and wide on the internet, and that is that the Emiratis, the Saudis, and the Jordanians all got together to try to help Israel circumvent the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, because those attacks have been cutting the Zionists off from, fundamental material supplies and support and so on, and crippling their economy, making all of those countries, in the eyes of the Muslims, in the eyes of the Arabs everywhere, traitors against Gaza and traitors against the Palestinians and hypocrites and Zionist lackeys and so forth. And of course, creating or exacerbating that perception of the Arab regimes, the Muslim regimes, was exactly the reason that the story was spread in the first place. Now, anyone who's active in the Middle Nation discussion knows this already. But the story is a complete fabrication, the story of the land bridge. The facts are this. In the first week of December, there was two companies, one in Israel called TruckNet, and one in UAE called Pure Trans, and they reached an agreement to try to pursue a land bridge project that would enable land transport from ports in the Emirates to Haifa in Israel over about 2,200 kilometers away. This agreement was announced on December 5th, and on December 16th, it was spread on the internet that shipments had already commenced from the UAE, providing Israel with much-needed relief, thanks to the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. So just over 10 days from the deal being made. Now let me explain something that should actually be obvious for anyone who operates and lives in the real world. A land bridge project like that cannot become operational in 2 weeks. Infrastructure has to be built. Roads have to either be laid or repaired, and contracts to do that work have to be either bid upon or negotiated with selected contractors. That process alone would generally take a number of months, even under the best circumstances, much less the current climate. Now, unsurprisingly, Jordan categorically denied that any such shipments are taking place, or that this so-called land bridge is operational in any way. The UAE, for their part, have threatened to nullify that deal even before it can be built and initiated if the Israelis don't facilitate delivery of humanitarian aid and relief and so forth into Gaza. And Mohammed bin Zayed has refused to take any call from Netanyahu. But there were videos that have circulated of trucks coming from Jordan into Israel, supposedly to prove that the land bridge is up and running. But these shipments have been going on between Jordan and Israel for years, for 20 years, from Jordan into the West Bank and into Israel. That's part of Jordan's treaty that Israel made, or that Jordan made with Israel decades ago. That has nothing whatsoever to do with this alleged land bridge. Now, an investigation was done by Mondo Weiss in February, completely debunking this story as pure Zionist propaganda. That's all it is. They're the first ones to release it, and they're the first ones to put it out on the internet, and then it would just spread because of Muslims. They found out in their investigation that neither company involved in the deal are involved in any transport or shipping activities whatsoever. And the company Pure Trans didn't even exist prior to the announcement of that project. And both owners of that company are actually Israeli citizens, so it's not even an Emirati company. The other company, TruckNet, is a digital company that provides just a platform for shipping companies, and it itself is not a shipping company. So the entire story is propaganda. Yes, there are two companies that made a deal, two Israeli companies made a deal, but absolutely nothing has come of that deal so far. And the UAE is even saying that they'll nullify the whole project. Nevertheless, the story caught fire across the internet. Until now, we see mass protests in Jordan taking place with people expressing outrage at their government for participating in this non-existent land bridge and accusing their government of treachery. It's become an incredibly volatile issue, and one which has effectively incited the Arab public against their leaders, fueling rage and resentment across the Arab and the Muslim world, all because Muslims online allowed themselves to become accidental, unthinking assets of Zionist propaganda. And then add to this now that we have Iranian-backed militias in Iraq who are pledging to send 12,000 men and weapons to Jordan to, I guess, presumably burst through the Israeli checkpoint at Allenby Bridge. and undertake, a fantasy guerrilla campaign inside of Israel. Obviously, you can see where this goes. Jordanian security forces are going to have to be, they'll be obliged to crack down on protesters to stop them from doing such a thing, which will just create more resentment. And then angry young men will start getting armed. And then they'll direct their violence not against the Israelis, but against Jordanian security forces. And there you have it. Jordan will be swallowed into the amorphous wasteland of Iraqi militant jurisdiction, hosting Iranian-backed militants, Iranian-backed armed groups, and of course, inevitably, ISIS will appear among them to fight back. And the whole country will collapse into violence and chaos. With Israel then, including Jordan in its targets, alongside Lebanon and Syria, again with the ultimate aim of escalation to the point of war with Iran. And they've got us cooperating with that. They've got us facilitating that, accelerating that, all while thinking to ourselves that we're standing up for the right thing, all while thinking that we're fighting for justice. We're on the precipice of a new global order, a new approach to global affairs, the economy, international relations, a new paradigm that will isolate and contain, finally, American and Western domination. But we're jeopardizing all of that. We're jeopardizing the promise of a stable, peaceful, prosperous future that will see the Muslims in a leadership role such as we have not had in over a century. All because we let ourselves become vehicles for carrying the lies of our enemies. And all because we're letting ourselves become the tools that they use to dismantle the ship that we're building now to try to carry us and our countries out of the sphere of Western and American influence. We're taking it apart ourselves. We're letting ourselves become the defibrillators for reviving the neocons on their deathbed. All because we just can't resist retweeting slanderous lies against our own countries, as if thinking the worst of our own people and of our own leaders is an article of faith. No, don't hate your Ummah more than you love the kuffar. Don't hate your leaders more than you love the colonizers and the Zionists. Wallahi, this is exactly why we need to decolonize our psyches. It breaks my heart to see Muslims being misled and manipulated because of their good intentions. They're having their own morality, their own love for justice, their own love for Al-Aqsa, their love for the Palestinians, their love for Palestine itself. They're having that used against them, because when you're in a state of passion, someone can just redirect you in one direction, then you'll take it out in the wrong at the wrong target. We're really on the verge of ruining what can be, and inshallah should be, and inshallah still will be, and we pray to Allah to protect that future. A future of that is truly a bright future, that is truly going to restore, inshallah bi'ithnillah, Muslim dominance and Muslim influence in not just in our region but even globally. But we can make decisions now, and we can take actions now that will completely undermine that and completely sabotage it, and do the work of our enemies, because they themselves are failing. They themselves are failing to defeat us. We're defeating them night and day, and the only ones who can defeat us is ourselves. And we're letting ourselves be played, we're letting ourselves be used, as I said, as vehicles to spread Zionist propaganda. And we need to be more careful about that, because there's a lot at stake. Everything is at stake. For ourselves, for our children, for our great-grandchildren.